Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, Alex Mtamsula, also known as Daddy Baby on Twitter. And what am I doing here? Well, it's Tuesday night once again here in my dad's Get Down to Business farm garage. Oh yeah, this is the lair of the hardest working man in the hard work business. And you realize this when you step inside this garage because he'll have a job for you to do. Happens to me all the time. So, my instructions for today's assigned task went something like this. Do you see this half-full plastic jar of generic instant coffee? And do you see this other half-full plastic jar of generic instant coffee? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pour the contents of this jar into this jar, and then I want you to throw the empty away. Do you think you can handle that? Okay, because what you're telling me is you're not going to be down here fooling around. You're not going to be like singing and dancing until 3:30 in the morning when you come rolling in with only 2 minutes of video and you forget to do what I asked you to do. Because I don't want to come down here after you left and find I have 2 half-full plastic jars of generic instant coffee still. Do we understand each other? Okay. See you tomorrow. He's gone. Oh, Dad knows me too well. I have a girlfriend with big tits who likes to skip rope. I'll bet you didn't expect to see that. Hey, Starless. Get the cats. Do-do-do. Flew in from Miami Beach, BOAC. Didn't get to bed last night. On the way, the paperback was on my knee. Man, I had a dreadful flight. I'm back in the USSR. Bum, 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 bum. You know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the USSR. Bum, 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 bum. Been away so long, I hardly knew the place. Gee, it's good to be back home. Leave it till tomorrow to unpack my case. Honey, disconnect the phone. I'm back in the USSR. Bum, 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 bum. You know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the US, back in the US, back in the USSR. Well, Ukraine girls really knock me out. They leave the West behind. And Moscow girls make me sing and shout. And JoJo's always on my mind. I'm back in the USSR, bum, 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 bum. You know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the US, back in the US, back in the USSR. Well, Ukraine girls really knock me out. They leave the West behind. And Moscow girls make me sing and shout. and JoJo's always on my mind. Mom, show me around those great big mountains way down south. Take me to your daddy's farm. Let me hear your bellow like it's ringing out. Come and keep your comrade warm. I'm back in the USSR. Boom, you know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the US, back in the US, back in the USSR. Oh, woo. Well, yeah, I think that makes a nice segue into the second part of this video, which I call S.I. Hayakawa Rocks. But first, an update on what happened when I took that half-full plastic jug of instant coffee and poured it into the other half-full plastic jug of instant coffee. I made a brown cloud. I've never seen a brown cloud before. I ended up doing this. So anyway, S.I. Hayakawa Rocks. Future videos I have in mind on old S.I. would amount to an adult education course. But what I'm trying to do is create a mental filter for you, which you can use anytime, and this filter will become more sophisticated as we go through language and thought and action. So the next time you sit down in front of the news, you will be a more sophisticated consumer of the news, assuming you still bother to watch the news. But on Sunday, when I'm sitting there watching Meet the Press, you better believe I'm going to have my filter on. You ain't getting away with shit this time, Chuck Todd. This thing even has a light on the top. Let's see. Woo! I'm serious. The Walking and Talking Human Encyclopedia and my invisible partner have been very supportive of this project and have given me some very good suggestions. The Walking Talking Human Encyclopedia said I should define some of SI's big concepts first so people will know what I'm talking about when they come up later. For example, the ladder of abstractions is a concept we'll get into. After that, there will be a disquisition on the nature of institutions, which SI shows, in terms of language, has more effect on the way we speak than you may think. By the way, this is where the anarchists miss the boat. The problem isn't the idea of government, which, at its Greek and Roman root words, means to steer a ship. The problem is that government is an institution. The United States government is a huge institution. It's institutions inside of institutions like boxes inside of boxes. You can get rid of government, but institutions will still pop up. Anyway, the first of SI's big concepts that I want to talk about are the 3 levels of abstraction. It goes something like this. The first level is the level of the report. The second level is the level of inference, and the third level is the level of judgment. And let me create a little scenario to illustrate what I'm talking about. You see Joe staggering across the street. At the level of report, like a police report, that's all you can say. I saw Joe staggering across the street. You can't say why. You have no idea, really. You're not that close. You just, see him at a distance. Okay. The second level of abstraction is the inference. Well, I saw Joe staggering across the street like he was drunk. Suddenly we're getting into maybes. Suddenly you're guessing at an explanation. The third level of abstraction is the level of judgment. I know Joe. He drinks all day. He's a drunk. That's why he was staggering across the street. So, that's how that works. And I did say in an earlier video that there are practical applications to this, and I'll explain. Now, this is going back a couple of weeks. The Walking Talking Human Encyclopedia says, I'm not cooking tonight. We're all getting sandwiches from Peppers and that. And I'm like, great. Now, a little plug for Peppers and that. It's this great bar restaurant in Rankin. And attached to the bar, I guess you'd call it a pavilion. It's like this huge porch with a roof over it. There's tables out there. I even took my invisible partner down there one Sunday when they had music. And in the corner, there were these 4 Italian guys, and they had speakers, and I guess he had a CD player. The CD they were playing was just instrumental tracks, and these guys were singing over them, and they were doing all these doo-wop songs, and they were doing oldies, and I turned to my invisible partner and I said, next to the love of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it doesn't get any more Pittsburgh than this. And I'll bet Scott knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, so this is a Saturday, and the cleanup man won sandwiches, and I won sandwiches, and the Walking Talking Encyclopedia says, yeah, sandwiches. So we get on the Peppers and that, and not only did we get those sandwiches, but we got these green banana peppers stuffed with hot Italian sausage. Now, keep that pepper in mind. Keep these peppers in mind. They will play an important role later in the story. Anyway, we leave Peppers and that. We go back to their house. The cleanup man gets his sandwich. Me and the Human Encyclopedia go over to my apartment where we eat the sandwiches, drink tequila, and watch movies until like 4 in the morning. Okay. The next day, there was a controversy between the cleanup man and the Walking Talking Human Encyclopedia. And I don't find out about this until Monday. On Monday, I had to drive the cleanup man to the doctor. So we're in the car, and he's like, you want to hear what happened about my sandwich? I'm like, what? He's like, there was tomato sauce on it. I didn't want tomato sauce. So I tell the Walking Talking Human Encyclopedia there was tomato sauce on my sandwich. You want to know what he did? And I'm like, what did he do? He started coming up with explanations for how the tomato sauce got on my sandwich, and he thinks it came off of the green banana peppers, which had tomato sauce all over them. He's answering a question I didn't even ask. And I just had one of those amazing moments where I'm like, wow, I know exactly what's going on here because I have read Language and Thought in Action. The cleanup man is at the level of report. There was tomato sauce on my sandwich. What the Walking Talking Human Encyclopedia did was he jumped to the level of inference, and he's trying to come up with explanations for how the tomato sauce got on the guy's sandwich. And the guy like, you're answering a question I didn't ask, and you're making my blood pressure go up. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't say this to the cleanup man, but in my mind it says, I'm going to have to talk to the Human Encyclopedia about this. But the funny thing is, you got to understand what type of guys we are. Me and the Human Encyclopedia, we're all college boys, right? That sort of thing, jumping from levels of abstraction, it's what academics do. He and I do it all the time. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't make my blood pressure go up. Now, the cleanup man is interesting in that he didn't go to college. He's a smart guy, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't like debate. He doesn't like argument. In fact, I've seen him do this. Me and the Human Encyclopedia are in the kitchen. We're talking something, political. And the cleanup man comes into the kitchen, states his position, expects it to be respected, and we're like, yeah. And he leaves the kitchen, goes back upstairs and makes a drink. And we're like, yeah, the guy doesn't like to argue. Me and the Human Encyclopedia, I would have made a joke out of it, right? I would have said, oh, what are you saying? That banana pepper with the hot sausage in it opened up the lid of my sandwich box, got in, molested my sandwich, closed the lid, and is now pretending that nothing bad happened? I would have laughed it off. And actually, he and I both were laughing about this when it finally came up. And like I said, the high blood pressure is part of it. Don't give the guy who is generous with his liquor a stroke. You're going to give me a stroke. Human Encyclopedia, to his credit, understood exactly what I was talking about. He's like, yeah, I see what you mean. So, as you can see, there was a practical application there, and it's all about communication, and kind of after that we were all sort of communicating a little better, so I consider that a win. Here's the thing about the walking, talking Human Encyclopedia. I think in a way he was defending the honor of Peppers and that. Oh, he's such a knight errant. The cleanup man and the walking, talking Human Encyclopedia play Dungeons and Dragons. And all three of us are fans of Game of Thrones, right? The cleanup man has the complete series on Blu-ray, so do I. In fact, if the walking, talking Human Encyclopedia were a character in Game of Thrones, he'd be Sir Greybag of the House of Walmart. I'm so bad. Have a good one.
I want the money.